Alright, so in this tutorial, we're going to be taking a look at editing what could possibly be some of the most challenging situations you're going to come across. This was a dark house, but we're shooting a big open space. We have a kitchen overlooking into a dining room with a big bay window, but we have beams on the ceiling with yellow pine in between those beams. Let's get into Lightroom right now. I'm going to show you how we did this. Alright folks, here is our setup right here. Notice the yellow pine here. This is the ambient shot. I'm just going to reset it for you real quick. This is what it looked like straight out of camera. And I'm shooting on the Panasonic GH5 Mark II with the Olympus 9-18 f4 to 5.6 today. And I left it wide open at 9mm, which would be 18mm full frame equivalent. So I'm going to go over to my 9-18 initial, and you notice something that I'm changing now on certain rooms like this where I just want to flatten that image out more, is I'm gonna go with Adobe Neutral as opposed to like Adobe Standard. By default it's Adobe Color. Look at how much darker, how much more contrast that is. So this is just a suggestion. Try out Adobe Neutral. It's the flattest profile that they offer right now, so I like it. Again, we can always bring in the contrast at the very end once we're done editing these. So I'm just gonna bump up my exposure a little bit. This is how we're tweaking. And where are we? Down here. Alright, so I put a little star next to this one. This is the ambient layer, and all I did was hit 1 on my keyboard. That gives me a star rating of 1. This is just so when we're going through each one of these photos in the sequence that we know which one to bring into Photoshop for that blending. So let's go on to our first flash pop. Alright, so again, after your ambient layer, you're going to take a flash pop above the camera every single time. Typically, that is all you're going to need. Unless that flash pop above the camera isn't lighting other areas in the image, then we're going to have to run around and do other flash pops like we are going to have to do in this situation. So I've already did my blending for this one. We got it marked as a 1. Let's move on. So I decided I was going to light this corner over here. So I'm going to do a flash pop here. And then we're coming over to this side. I'm out of frame, but we'll be able to blend these images together to light this side of the kitchen. And then we're going to move over and focus on the other side of this beam right here to light this dining room we shot from over there. Alright, so let's hold down Command, and we're going to just click on all our 1 stars, and we're going to right click and edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. Alright, once all your layers have been loaded up, the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure the top one is selected. We'll hold down Shift, click the bottom one just so they select them all. Edit, Auto Align Layers, and then hit OK. Make sure Auto is selected. Auto does a really good job. Alright, let's unclick. Now, first thing we want to do is toggle off the ambient layer. We're going to toggle off the flash above the camera. And now we can work on these two as a composite, and we're going to merge these into one layer once we blend them. So make sure the top one is selected. We're going to come down here to the layer mask, Command I to invert it. I love using the gradient tool. We're just going to take that gradient somewhere in front of the hot spot of that flash and click and drag and let off. And we can do it a couple times to blend that in a little bit better, like that, so it's a more even blend. That looks pretty good to me. Now, we're going to hold down Command and click this, the bottom layer underneath our mask. That's going to select both of those images, and we're going to right click and come down here to merge layers. Now, that puts this into one layer. So now we can toggle that one off and focus on the dining room blending shot that we need to do. So let's do a layer mask. Command I to invert that one. Same thing with our gradient tool. Drag it and let off. We could probably do a little bit better job blending that. Let's try that again. Alright. Now let's do the same thing. Let's hold down that. Hold down Command. Right click. And merge layers. Now we have all these, and so once you have this one merged, it's just a matter of selecting this one, and now let's turn this one to lighten mode. So what that did was just take the brightest part of that and turned that one on, and now we'll go to the shot above the camera, turn that one to lighten mode, and that one just turned that one on. So now we're just turn on lights again, and now we can get to our ambient layer. So what you would typically want to do in this situation is turn the ambient layer to luminosity mode, but I don't like what it does. It discolors the cabinets and it just starts to make that wood look really orange. So we're just going to leave it on neutral, and I'm going to or normal, and I'm going to show you a better solution here once we're all done. So for this situation, if we toggle this off, we got a lot of shadows that are unnecessary right here, or that are unnatural, I meant to say, and hot spots on the beams. So just dropping that ambient layer to 50%, which I love to do when it works because obviously it's a lot faster, but it still doesn't blend out those unnatural shadows. So we need to bring it back up to 100%, do a layer mask, Command I to invert, take our paintbrush, and remember flow should be 5-6%. That way we can just feather in and blend out those unnatural shadows. We have a shadow over here by this curtain. Let's bring our brush size down a little bit. We have unnatural reflections on that refrigerator over here by the microwave. Again, hot spot on that beam. And we're just trying to get it. See, this is why I don't like going with lights on typically, is because now I'm starting to blow out those light fixtures. So yeah, that's one reason why I don't like using lights on, because it's really, I'm not using any of the light from those, and it just looks like a blown out distraction, all those lights. You know, agree or disagree, that's just my personal preference. Alright, so now what we got to do is we got to get this, I'm going to show you a simple way to correct for color cast, because we got a lot of color cast going on here. So let's come down to the bottom layer here, just right click, and we're going to flatten this image. Now, I have a preset for this. It's called function F3, and I'm going to show you what that does. We're going to back out of that. So what you want to do is Command J to duplicate the layer. We're going to come up here to filter, and then blur, and then average. So this is just smearing all the colors together to get an average color, and it should be middle gray if you have like perfect white balance, perfect gray point. But we need to get this to a perfect gray point. So we're going to come down here and use our curves adjustment layer. Select the middle eyedropper, because the middle eyedropper is a sample and image to set the gray point. So we're going to click on that middle eyedropper and click anywhere in the image. It's going to shift your colors. It's going to lift the blues, drop the reds. At least in this situation, that's what it did. Okay, so we can toggle that off. We can shut that first layer off. And now, if we toggle this curves adjustment layer off and on, see how the yellows? Basically, what it's doing is pulling out the reds in the image and lifting those blues to balance that image out. So sometimes it can go overboard and make it look, the image look too blue or too green, whatever the situation is. Just take your opacity and drop that down a little bit. I find that like 70-75% a lot of times is a really nice natural look. There we go. Because a lot of times you are going to have color casting that is a natural look, and you don't want to completely eliminate that. It just makes the image look weird. And again, every situation is going to be a little bit different. You're going to have to find that out as you do that. But look at how much cleaner that looks. Gets rid of that color cast, as opposed to dealing with luminosity mode. Now, I use luminosity mode, don't get me wrong, in a lot of situations, but when it's more of a headache than it is a help, then I use this method. And I use custom action for that. I have tutorials on how to create a custom action right here. You hit the plus sign here and then hit record, and you can go through the motions and then save it as a custom preset, which makes your workflow faster. So let's flatten this image. And it just says we don't need that layer, and we're going to Command S to bring it back into Lightroom. And I'm going to do my interior final bump. I suggest you do that too, making presets for your final bumps. Just tweaking that a little bit. I'm going to hold down Option and slide the black slider, and we can bring those blacks in a little bit more and let off. Now, the only other thing I would want to do is, to me, this is like way too much ceiling. Even if this was a highlight of the house, we can still eliminate some of that ceiling, so we can just bring that down. I'm going to watch that. Maybe we don't need to show the microwave in this shot. It's not important. We have other angles of this kitchen where I highlight this part of it. So there you go, guys. Leave me a comment if you have any questions or other tips for us YouTubers out here. But I appreciate you watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Tutorials are coming out all the time. Have a great day.